All right, everybody, we're back on Play It Forward. Today we got DJ Walker, director, filmmaker. A Lesson in Love, Jealousy, and Violence, or Hot Date 3 is the film project we'll be talking about. DJ, thank you for being on the show today.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. Yeah. I love that in our title it's Or Hot Date 3 because it is a third part of a little trilogy. And it was kind of just the ironic wink wink of the Or Hot Date 3 because that's the whole nature of the little series. It's very, slap in your face, kind of that almost fourth wallish type of way, So I always laugh when people go Or Hot Date 3, it just makes me laugh. So
So there is a Hot Date 1, Hot Date 2.
yeah, so the original film is Hot Date, and then the second film, actually, the title is called Electric Boogaloo. And
Okay.
that was kind of a spin-off funny thing too, because when me and my friend, his name is Stefan, and he's the writer of these stories and the cinematographer, all three. When we were talking about doing like a little next film in the Hot Date stuff, he's like, "Oh, we need a sequel," and he's like, something like Electric Boogaloo or something Part Two Electric Boogaloo, one of those old dance films, and that just kind of sounded funny. And then he was like, "We're going with it," and then it would be kind of 80s themed with the music and everything. And so that's how that title came. And then we kind of just piggybacked off that when we did this final one when we had that discussion of how do we kind of wrap this up because we're not going to go forever, but then we just went there and it kind of continued actually the 80s music theme into this movie, which we had a guy named Christopher who composed the music for this new film, Lesson, and he did a great job. I remember even talking to him directly and going and meeting with him and being like, how 80s can we go? Like, how original can you get this? And he's very talented and he does a lot of instruments and stuff like that. And he's like, yeah, we're doing this. And I'm like, I love it. Let's do it. Because I'm old enough to, have been a teenager during the 80s and that time. So, that love of just funny, the kind of humor and stuff that comedies and things had too back then, I think it has a lot of inspiration for these little short films. Because Stefan also loves that time period and those like that music, and he's more of a rock guy, like Fleetwood Mac, them kind of bands and stuff like
Sure,
that.
sure, sure.
So they definitely have that kind of influence throughout all of them. So
Well, I definitely can see that, and I can see that a group of talented people got together. The cinematography is really nice. It's cool that a cinematographer wrote this. That's a kind of refreshing. And I feel a little at a disadvantage because I was only shared like the first or this date 3, so I'm missing date 1 and 2. And my job is almost like a dramaturg. I go in there, I dissect the piece, I look at the narrative, and I try to figure out, hey, what are we talking about here? What is the depths that we can mine here that people are really, where in their psyche, where in their hearts is this narrative coming from, and what are they saying, and what elements are they battling or trying to expose or have fun with, whatever the case might be. So it seems
right.
like all that's going on. You guys are having fun with it. There's something that you're working with thematically. And so I've kind of, done my part in terms of analyzing the film from that creative perspective and
Mm.
thematic perspective. And so, but again, I haven't seen the part 1 and 2, which probably would help. That said, the inspiration for this piece, I know Stefan wrote it.
Mhm.
When you guys got together, when he shared it with you, maybe he wrote it after you guys had brainstormed something first. Feel free to share that. But what the thing in you when as an artist, you attach yourself to some work, you're like, boom, okay, I'm going to do this. I commit to this. I commit. I marry you idea. So what was the
Yeah.
idea that you were marrying?
Um, Finality. How do we close this out? Like in we knew going into this one that we kind of just wanted to end it and not continue on. So it was how do we give resolution to the main character whose name is Joaquin? Um, like what you missed in the first two films, just a little bit of background is the first film plays on him and Lars, who's the other character that shows up in the desert scene, and he's had that imaginary friend moment, ghost kind of thing, right? That's his roommate and friend from the very first film. And the whole thing is about this girl. You see her in this new film where she shows up. She kind of is almost angelic in a way,
Hmm.
and he's living with the guilt because the play on the first film is, did he murder them? Like, and he plays psychologically through the others. He keeps seeing the friend appears. Is he real? Imagine, is it all in his head? You know what I'm saying? Or what's
Hmm.
going on? Um, because the whole premise of Hot Date was, I think Stefan was kind of inspired maybe from his own personal relationships, of having a friend and this girl that you both like. Now they don't know they like the same girl until they meet, and he finds out that the date that the roommate's having is this girl that he's been talking to, and so, and then in his mind, he's like playing out these scenarios where he's like going to kill them, and
He's
then you don't
freaked
know if he
out.
really did or
Yep,
not,
yep, yep, yep.
and so then the second story, when it continues on, he's kind of on the run. Like, you figure out that he actually did kill them, and the consequences of what happens with all of that. And then going into this film, it was, how do we kind of tie all that together so that we, one, really have cemented, I think in the second film it really cements that it did happen, but in this one, like, I really told Stefan, like, we really need some kind of resolution. These stories are only, 5, 6, 7 minute films, so they're short, but it's still, there's somewhat of an arc here that we have to complete. And I feel like with Joaquin, he has to come to grip with the consequences of what he's done, right? And so there has to be that kind of payoff. And in the last kind of shot of the film, he spoiler alert, he goes through the thing with the cop and everything, and it's almost like, does he come to grips with what he's done when he sees her? Yes, but then there's that kind of look that he gives to the camera, and you're like, wait a minute, is he really guilty or not guilty? Like, does he feel the remorse about it?
Right, right, right,
And that was kind of
right.
intentional, kind of like leave it as a play. Like, who knows? Because I can't ever say no. Will we ever maybe do another short film down the road? Maybe. You got to leave it open. Who knows? So,
Well, this is great background for me because, to contextualize it, what I find really interesting is that, okay, so you're dealing with these kind of this thematic, a very traditional human theme of like these strong emotions, love, jealousy, and violence, and hey Joe, where you going with that gun in your hand? I'm going to shoot my old lady, kind
right.
of messing around with another man. So,
Yeah.
that's like been as, old as the hills, right? So where that song might come from. So that, and you guys are doing it within like the spoof of like the 80s, and I know you're kind of riffing on your childhood there, but there's this comedic context to it all, this like grand
Mhm.
sort of play, like this joke. And the question is, well, who's the joke on? Is the
Right.
joke on humanity? Is the joke on our own nature? Is the joke on I don't know.
I think well, knowing Stefan, and it's just who Stefan is. Stefan's kind of got that really odd quirkiness to him. Like, that's just his personality and the things he likes. And I think he just liked the idea of, I think it's funny that, like, we don't know if he really did kill him or not, because we didn't intentionally set out to be three. It was just going to be this one little short film, and very inspired by American Psycho with the whole. Because if you watch the end of the first
I
film,
don't know that
there's a
movie.
whole bloodshot scene that's
Okay.
very reminiscent of that film, right?
Okay.
And it kind of gets violent, right? So then it was when we continued on, like, how do we kind of make this a little bit more juice and meat to it? That, I think that's what for me was important. And I remember having those discussions with him was, there's this jealousy and all that. And all the whole while for me, it was, he's gonna have to come to grips that he murdered someone. And you're right, there is this, like, whether it was jealousy or what caused it, he feel guilty? Because you almost kind of get the impression he doesn't. But I really wanted to make sure that by the end of this one, that it somewhat come across that he did, because he does, and he feels bad. It's just that, for him as a character, Joaquin is, um I don't know if he can kind of stop almost, because that's what that kind of look is at the
Mm,
end. Like
mm, mm,
you don't, I don't know. I think he is
mm.
regretful, but I don't know if he's completely, he might be a Ted Bundy or a Jeffrey Dahmer. I don't know, so
So, so the themes are emerging of, the idea of, at some point you can't outrun the consequences of your actions. They do
right.
catch up with you. And yet there is this remorse, versus bloodlust that's a bit ambiguous, where you guys are kind of playing with that in terms of, well, what does that say about our humanity? And that kind of
Exactly.
gets us to that. That's really what I guess what I'm kind of, I just want to hone down the question a little bit in terms of the takeaway. The takeaway in the
Yeah.
movie, if we were just to mine, just get some of that, juicy meaning and throw it in the thought or feeling of it and process our own reality, that part of it is like that bloodlust, where enjoying the vengeance, right? Or what might be vengeance, versus taking that higher road of actually, like, we all do things that we regret. And do we
Mhm.
face them? Do we
Right.
face them or not? So within that kind of framework, do you think, is there a takeaway for you as a creative person in this project?
Yeah, I think what you were saying is really the truth, because I love I'm a very much a people person, and most of my life I've been in mostly a lot of jobs that are like customer service related and dealing with people in sales and stuff like that. And so I have a pretty good read on people. I think that just kind of comes naturally. So I'm always interested in like how people react to things, how people with their emotions and how they treat people and stuff like that. So like I said, it was important to me that even though I don't think there was a lot in the original story of, I don't think Stefan put too much thought other than that this was kind of a cool idea and would be just funny, a little dark comedy. But when we decided to continue on, I'm like, well, I was the one to keep pressing, like, we need some meat to this. There's got to be some kind of substance of him having, like I said, the remorse. There is the comic, because it's like, how do you make it comedic for people to laugh? But yet you kind of feel bad, because to me, I actually pity him. And if we ever was to do another story, I think what I would like to do is kind of a prequel type thing. Like, how did he get there? Why is he kind
Mm,
of messed up? Why did
mhm,
what's his thing to go to killing them? Like,
mhm, mhm,
it's one
mhm,
thing if you're your
mhm, mhm.
friend, because the relationship you kind of get in the first film right off the bat is they're roommates and they're bros and they're friends, but they're also kind of competitive, because the friend Lars, he's this, doing the whole dabs and all that. And he's just like obnoxious, and you're just like, oh God, maybe I would kill him myself. So, um, but I mean, to actually kill someone because you're so jealous, because I think too, it's because Joaquin as a character is just having this girl for the first time. Maybe he's got a girl for the first time interested in him, and now this schmuck over here is going to take that away from him, and now he rages out about it. But why did he get there? I would love if we did this, like I said, to go back and kind of what led us to that. Like I said, I don't think originally there was a lot of thought. It was more of what do we deal with now, and just at least wrapping it up, and at least him having resolution, and the characters kind of having a resolution that he kind of made peace somewhat with it. But I don't know if he totally is, like I said, there's just that little hint of, he may do it again. I don't know.
What I find two things interesting, inspiring in what you said. One was the word truth. I mean, because that's really what, we're driving after here. What I'm driving after on the show is, what is the truth within this context of, entertainment. And then and I really appreciate how you set up the prequel, because I think that's a great idea. I think that the psychology of whether it's mass murder or it's just somebody who never says I'm sorry, is interesting. There's something there that happened to that person,
Right.
behaviorally, developmentally, something that happened, something that didn't happen. There's some developmental thing. And I guess for me in our discussion, that's really what's emerging as like my takeaway, is like the ability to say I'm sorry, and the ability to say I'm sorry and to move on with your life,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And I'm glad you take that away, because that was my hope by the end of this film, to somewhat wrap it up, but that it really, I remember telling the guy, his name is Cody, who plays Joaquin, like, I want you to try to emote as much as you can that you're really remorseful. Like you do get it at one point towards the end when in the film when he kind of drops for the cop, he gets that he's busted there. This is it. It's done now, you know. Um, and then I just remember us having that discussion on set of like, you know, that was more than anything what I wanted to feel with him. And I think he did pretty good with that because the funny thing about Cody is he's not really an actor. He's kind of a filmmaker himself, but he did this for us because he was a film school buddy. And when we did the first film, it was more of a favor. And it just kind of evolved into more. But I think he did portray that, and actually
Yeah,
he's got some good
he did
natural
great.
chops on him. I think
He
you know
did
he
great.
comes
Yeah.
across very well.
He
So
did. He did. You know, it's cool because, you know, in the this discussion, you know, I've just kind of learned, you know, oftentimes when we're running away from something, and it's not so much the thing that we're running away from, but our remorse. It's not just how it makes us feel, but the fact that if we it means we have to do something with this thing in facing it, and often in facing it, it is the act of remorse, you know,
right,
and forgiving ourselves
right,
really, which can be a challenge.
yeah.
DJ Walker, last question. How has your life changed personally since making this trilogy?
Um, well, I mean, I've had a lot of outside of film personal things that have happened. So that kind of has unfortunately slowed down, and I haven't gotten to do much. But the good news is those crew of people I work with, Stefan, Cody, we actually are going to be doing a couple of projects this year. We're going to take on a whole new comedy film. Cody's going to actually be starring in it, but he helped kind of write it. But they asked me to direct it, which I'm really looking forward to that. So as far as like since this film wrapped, you know, the thing is I haven't gotten to do much because of all these other like you know some health issues and things that have happened.
Sorry to hear
But
that.
it doesn't stop me. It doesn't stop me, you know.
Yep.
So
Keep
um,
going.
yeah, and so I'm excited to get on set. But you know, the thing about this film was it was the first time we had gotten into festivals with the first two and a couple other projects I did. And I'm always grateful for that because I never take anything for granted, right? But this time with this film, that we actually had some success and we actually won awards and stuff like that. And for me and Stefan, it was just so um, rewarding, really, because I think he's done such a great job in all three films with the cinematography and all of that. And um, to actually get kind of acknowledged and rewarded in that way. And yeah, they may be just local independent films, festivals, whatever. That don't matter to me. I felt like a rock star. I thought we had won Sundance, you know,
That's
when
awesome.
I got the best director one. Well, it was funny about that because when we found out, I was trying to figure out what we had won this award for, and for the longest time, I couldn't find it. And then finally, I found out, and it was actually for Best Director. And we had already known for a while we won,
Wow.
but I didn't know what it was for. And then here, Stefan had gotten the Best Cinematography ones, and I was
That's great.
like, you so deserve it. And then when I get it, I'm like floored. I literally could have probably cried, to be honest with you.
That's great.
But yeah, so since then, you know, not a lot has happened, especially in the film part of my life. Hopefully that's going to change.
But I
Where I
really
live,
mean interpersonally. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I mean interpersonally. After making a big project, especially a trilogy, you know, something changes. You know, you've made this creative output, and inside
yeah,
you, there's some dynamic that must have, you know, shifted.
yeah. I think what shifted was confidence in of just learning more. Like it's because to me, it's always an ongoing learning process
Yeah.
as far as filmmaking. You know, everybody says the hone your craft and all that, but that's what it really is. And it's the experimentation that and we're not afraid to try things with these films. And I think this is the best time in your life to do that with this indie short films and stuff we're doing because let's face it, if this was a major Hollywood production or a big, but you know, you might not get that opportunity. So I like that, and I think what I got out of it was not only the resolution and feeling great that we accomplished something really cool, and that people seem to have really enjoyed, but um, that I got to grow and learn. And I look forward to the next thing we do and everything we did learn, implementing that, right? And becoming better. And And it's not about always getting in festivals or awards, but because to me, it's all about, do you feel fulfilled creativity, the creativity side of it? Do you feel fulfilled artistically? But do you also make things that people enjoy? There are people that don't like these films. That's just a given. That's the nature of this beast, right? But if three-quarters of the people who watch it like it and say it's funny and it entertained them, then to me, that was all well worth it, right? So that I think, just knowing that we wrapped up something that people really seem to enjoy. And I know when we were making the second and third one, people were asking us constantly, like, when, are you guys doing another one? We've been asked so much, are we doing another one, right? And I'm like, no, this is it. But like I said, I think just getting to learn um, more confidence in myself to be able to just have the chance and the opportunity to take chances. I think that's the biggest thing. Take chances because you're not going to get that always, and especially if you make it into more high gig, high profile type of work. So I'm taking my shot now, and let's just have fun with this. You know what I'm saying? And I get to do it with some of the coolest people and most talented people I know that just happen to be people I went to film school with. You know what I'm saying? And
Awesome.
I know their passion and the fact that a lot of them come and when you're on these micro budget films, a lot of times it's begging and borrowing and getting them to do you
Oh,
favors and all that, right? And that's just the
everybody
life
can
of
relate
it.
to that. Everybody can relate.
Exactly. And so the fact that all these people continue to want to do that with me because they trust in you
Yeah.
and they want to be around you and do this, and they don't, I never had any of them, any actor, anything, afraid to, if I said, we're going to do this, we're going to kill, and it's going to be bloody and all, nobody ever questioned. They just trusted that we were going to be okay. They were going to be okay. And we were going to have fun doing it. And they sure did, And so, but get back mainly to what you were saying, I think that I got to take chances, got to grow, got to learn and have the opportunity to make mistakes and just be creative. And that's the biggest takeaway that, and I can't wait to implement them with the projects going forward, so, and hope that I
DG,
get to still keep doing that, so
DG Walker, keep doing it. Keep doing it. Look forward to
well,
that
I'm gonna
prequel.
try.
You will. You will. Looking forward to that prequel and your next work. We're out. Peace on Plate Forward, DJ. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much for being on
Yes,
the
thank you for
show.
having me.
And till next time, everybody. Bye bye.